All right, welcome to Bet the Edge. I'm Jay Croucher, reunited with the whale capper Drew Dinsick, coming live from Jackson Hole, of all places. I think the New York Knicks were in Jackson Hole last night. They went on the final court in Sacramento. So I don't want to talk about the association today. We're going to talk about college basketball. But Drew, how are you? What's news?
Oh, great, man. It's been a great week, and we have an unbelievable sports weekend on tap. All of these conferences, tournament games, starting with today's action, look unbelievably cool. We have some good NBA this weekend. And then, of course, Indian Wells is kind of the meat of the tournament is this weekend. So didn't even mention the players, didn't even mention everything that's going on in the Premier League. It is an absolutely packed weekend from a betting standpoint. So fired up to talk about some of the highs with you here today.
Yep. So it's going to be college basketball focused today. We're going to talk about some of tonight's key conference games, look ahead to the tournament, dark horse, final four teams, and all of that. We're going to welcome in college basketball coach and analyst, Coach Scott Spinelli, to break it all down. But first, baseball season, Drew, is around the corner, much to my delight. New season, new rules, new stars. So pair it with the RotoWorld Baseball Draft Guide. Get all the player profiles, rankings, and projections that you need. Go to NBCSportsEdge.com/draft guide and use code Pennant25 to save 25% at checkout. All right, let's welcome in Coach Scott Spinelli to talk about all the action. Thanks very much for joining us, Coach. Let's get straight into it. I want to talk about UConn against Marquette. Tonight, UConn are 3.5-point favorites. Bit of a weird season for UConn. Started off really hot. They've been, I guess, an analytics darling for much of the season. But what are you expecting from them in this game tonight?
Well, UConn's playing their best basketball right now, Jay. I mean, obviously they've won 9 of 10. I believe they won 6 straight here. And they're playing up to expectations. I think oftentimes as a coach, you go into the season on paper and you have all the ingredients. But the old adage of great players are made in the off season, great teams are made in season. I think this UConn team kind of defines that, right? They've gelled now together. They're figuring out their roles, their identity in terms of a team that can get after you defensively, but it's also very potent offensively. So this is a very dangerous UConn team right now and playing extremely well at the right time.
Yeah, I am sad that we're not going to get best price available in UConn anymore. The secret is out. You are exactly right. They are playing their best basketball at the most important time of the year. In my heart, I kind of hope they underwhelm here today against Marquette, who matches up fairly well against them so that we can get some value on them in the tournament. I was hoping they fall into like a 4 seed range, but no way, not the way that they're playing right now. They're going to get a cherry draw. Pretty cool though to see, UConn playing this well back in the Garden. Big East has just been an awesome entertainment so far. And, last meeting between these two teams, February 7th, it was pretty lopsided in favor of UConn. I think that's influencing things here a little bit because 3.5 points as far as a gap between these two teams seems like a big number. So I'm going to cross my fingers that Marquette can get it done for us and preserve a smidgen of value for them come tournament time because the way you take on a bracket challenge, the way you win your home bracket pool, try to find a little bit of a contrarian approach. And I think everybody's onto UConn right now. So need to see them throw some cool cold water on this team. The other super duper hot team taking on an absolute, true blue, contender is the Duke Blue Devils in the ACC tournament against the Miami Hurricanes. Now Miami underwhelmed yesterday against Wake Forest. Duke was sensational against Pittsburgh, and now Duke comes in as 2.5-point favorites, even though they got absolutely blown out last time they played this Miami Hurricanes team. Do you have a read on whether the Hurricanes can kind of repeat what we saw in early February, or is Duke just a better team right now?
Again, I think you look at this Duke team similar to UConn in terms of playing their best basketball. Obviously after that game they played at Miami, and they got, beat up pretty bad. There was that infamous, team only meeting, and the trajectory of the team had changed at that point. I mean, they're playing exceptionally well right now. It is a little bit of a contrasting type of team in terms of how it's been put together, right? Miami's filled with transfers with great experience. They play kind of the modern day basketball right now with versatility, skill, with 3-point shooting. Whereas Duke is a team that's basically been built from the recruiting side of this. They've got probably better overall team size. They do have skill, don't necessarily have the versatility that a Miami team has position to position, which I think is so important in basketball and especially into the NCAA tournament because so much of it's about matchups, right? But I do like this Miami team right now in this particular setting. And the reason I say that is because, look, Miami, you win with great guards in the postseason. And I think Miami's team is built for postseason play. They have tremendous guard play from Wong, who's been around, forever. Obviously, the transfer Nigel Pack is tremendous. Jordan Miller, the transfer from George Mason's playing exceptionally well. I think they're a team right now that, again, against this Duke team, although Duke's playing at home pretty much in Greensboro, they're playing their best basketball. I think Duke's going to have a great chance to make a run in the tournament. In this game today, I just think Miami has a little bit more in the backcourt.
Yep, that makes sense to me. All right, let's jump to the Big 12, big matchup between 22nd ranked TCU and Texas. Texas 2.5-point favorites. A couple big wins in a row for Texas, though they did lose by 2 points to TCU on the 1st of March, which broke my heart because I had a big bet on Texas winning the regular season Big 12 and getting the 1 seed, and they would have had they not lost by 2 points to TCU, but that's okay. They are 2.5-point favorites tonight. Coach, what are you expecting out of this one?
Again, I think you have contrasting styles in terms of two teams that play a little bit different. Texas is really predicated on their tremendous offense in terms of how they score the ball. Their efficiency and field goal percentage offensively is excellent. TCU is that, Coach Dixon, rugged, tough-minded team that's going to get after them defensively. They rebound the ball much better than Texas does. They go after the offensive glass. Look, I think this is a game that comes down to, philosophically what you really believe. Both teams are similar in one way. They have a bunch of transfers, but I think if you're looking for a team defensively that really gets after it and you believe that defense travels, I think TCU is that pick today. If you're looking for a team offensively, that explosiveness, I think Texas is a team that, again, has a lot of different weapons offensively. But I'm going to go with the TCU defensive-minded, tough, hard-nosed rebounding team today.
Fair enough. So far, we've covered 3 really high leverage games, and I like 3 dogs. So hoping for a little bit of a squirrely Friday here. I don't know how the Big 12 tournament plays out. The Big 12 has been clearly the most impressive conference over the balance of the season. For those reasons, as you kind of look into some of the specialty markets, like which conference will win the title. Obvious favorite, Big 12. Now with all of these teams having championship aspirations and maybe looking more towards the later end of March, do they kind of leave it all on the floor for a Big 12 tournament title? Maybe. It's not obvious that motivations are clearly dialed in for all of these remaining teams in the Big 12. I mentioned they were the conference that is favored right now to win the outright market at plus 275. You have SEC, Pac-12, and the American following. Interestingly enough, the Duke Blue Devils and ACC, they are down at the 8th choice right now, 15-1. If you want to take a flyer on any of those teams that make it into the mix. Is there a general read that you have on any of these conferences being particularly overrated or underrated by market as we head into tournament time?
Yeah, that's a tough question, right? I obviously agree with you guys. I think the Big 12 this year from top to bottom was by far the best conference. And I think, that bodes well for those teams in terms of being ready for the postseason. But, as we all know, the NCAA tournament is so unpredictable. And the reason why is because of matchups. You just don't know who you're going to match up with that first game, first opening round game, second round, and obviously into the second weekend. And so from that standpoint, I think there's multiple teams here from other conferences that are going to have a chance here. As it relates to the ACC, look, I think Miami is built to be very successful in the tournament this year. I think you got to be very careful of Duke, mindful of the size and skill. They're going to be a problem. And again, depending upon who matches up with who, there's some other teams from lesser supposed conferences. Obviously, Houston, you referenced, they're as complete as they've ever been on both ends of the floor this year. The Missouri Valley, a Drake team that their average starting lineup is 23.7 years per old with 4,000 point scorers. I've never seen that before. And then the Mountain West this year, I think, has the skill in 3-point shooting for the first time to kind of think that they could advance. So I think it's a wide open NCAA field as it relates to conferences in terms of teams. I'm not quite sure on that one. I think it's too wide open to call.
Yeah. And I mind the Big East as well, plus 750, just because you get UConn, who have so much talent. And then, I mean, you're probably not counting on Creighton or Marquette going all the way, but I mean, there would be potentially crazier things that have happened. Coach, any dark horse teams, any long shot teams that you think are going a bit under the radar and might have a run in them?
I made reference to Drake. I think, look, anytime as a coach, you're trying to get old. And if you look at some of the teams that are playing today that we've just talked about, whether it be Texas's team with all those transfers, TCU's teams with all those transfers, Miami's team has been built with transfers. As a coach, you want to get old. Drake this year in a Missouri Valley conference that really was very competitive. I mean, there was 4 or 5 teams in that league that easily could have got into the tournament and advanced. What I like about Drake is, again, they've got 4 guys in their starting lineup who are all 1,000-point scorers throughout their career. Darren DeVries, their sophomore, the youngest starter at 20, is a tremendous. He's a matchup problem. And when you have that kind of experience and firepower with the age of those guys, 2 of their starters are 25 years old. One is 24 years old. One is 23, and one is 20. There's a big difference between a 25-year-old, player, student athlete in basketball than an 18, 19-year-old. So I do think Drake is a team that you got to kind of look out for here in this year's tournament. And look, I don't know how much of a dark horse a team like, College of Charleston, they won 30 games. They're complete also. But I really think this Drake team is the one team you got to really keep an eye on here, guys, in the tournament.
Yeah, Drake, by the way, kind of fits the kind of prototypical. They get a little underseeded with the 12 seed, and then they make absolute mess out of both the 5 seed and the 4 seeds hopes on the way to a Sweet 16 run. So that is going to be a very popular pick, and it does feel like them getting a 12 seed is sort of fate. So yeah, Drake Bulldogs. I like that shot. That's fun.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think, potentially at the price, why not? Any individual players, Coach, that you think we should be looking out for in terms of the most outstanding player of the tournament and that type of conversation?
Obviously, Edie, for Purdue is just a dominant player. And the way, they use him, right, offensively, it's really difficult to guard him. He's a matchup nightmare. And I think his numbers in terms of his productivity, I mean, if you look at his numbers this year for their team, he pretty much led them in almost every category, whether it be, block shots, rebounding, scoring, even he was even passing the ball at a very high rate. So I think he's somebody that you got to really keep an eye on here, come the conference, the NCAA tournament. But look, I think when you look at, Jaime Jaquez for UCLA, I mean, look, they took a blow with Jalen Clark going down, but they're a team still, and he's a terrific player. Again, another versatile, experienced, guy that can play multiple positions. I really like him too in the tournament. And then you look, depending upon what happens with some of these teams and how far they go, Trace Jackson Davis from Indiana, another exceptional talent who's been there for a while. Again, I think as you look around the tournament, a lot of it's going to be, kind of determined on which team goes the furthest. So maybe that question is, as we look at these brackets, coming up here on Sunday or Monday, I think we might be able to get into that just a little bit more in terms of, that type of player. But there's some guys right there that are really good players.
Yeah, and I think as we start to see those markets, you're basically trying to pick a player who has, the lion's share of the equity for a team with a realistic chance to win, because you have to go back to 1983 to find a most outstanding player awarded to a not title-winning player. So for those reasons, I'm going to cross off Edie because I am out on Purdue being realistic title contenders. But all that said, if you feel like this is Gonzaga's year, bet Drew Timme. Like that, like he has an enormous share of the potential, award vote if Gonzaga does win it, and you're probably going to get a better number. Anybody kind of stand out in that regard to you, Jay?
No, I agree though with fading Edie. I think that just with the way that Purdue is trending, also Edie closed. I think he closed minus 20,000 to win the John Wooden Award. So I think that will be his award for the season, and I think it ends there. Well, Coach, thanks very much for joining us. Anything to plug? Anything to promote? And where can people follow you?
No, not really. I appreciate you guys having me again. We've been doing a lot of things in terms of Believe and the podcast, and that's been going great. And been traveling around the world doing a lot of clinics, with a lot of different high school kids all over. So it's been a really fulfilling, fun time. But glad to be a guest, and thanks for having me today, guys.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Coach. We appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good day.
Yes. All right, before we close out with our best bets heading into the weekend, a reminder to download the RotoWorld app to receive breaking player news all season long. Stay ahead of the competition by favoriting players on your roster. Get the latest injury updates, player news, and much more delivered right to your phone. It's available in the App Store today. All right, Drew, best bet, be it for tonight or the weekend. What have you got?
I think it's Iga to win the Indian Wells on the women's side.
Okay.
Big Iga fan this week. Going forward. Going out on a limb. She's plus money. She shouldn't be. She should be in the minus money range. This is not a strong women's field. And realistically, some of the players who have a little bit of spark, a little bit of, opportunity ended up on the other side of the draw. So she's not even really going to have to flex that hard and, kind of beat some of the tougher players to win this title. So go get yourself some Iga, put it in your pocket. I'm going to also be rolling over Iga 2-0 because I think she really is like in an absolute killer mindset, killer mode right now. And I don't see her dropping a set on the way to a title here. So trying to do something into the 8-1 to 10-1 range, which is, I think there may be some markets out there for Iga to win the title without dropping a set that I would look into. And then, beyond that, going to be fading Sam Burns at the Players this weekend. He's basically telling us to fade him. So excited to see what kind of matchups we get for Sam Burns. And then, of course, on the hardball side tonight, I laid the chalk with a couple of favorites. I laid the 8.5 with Philadelphia against Portland. I think that should be a double-digit point spread, and Portland is in deep trouble in that matchup. And then I like our Minnesota Timberwolves to get it done against your Brooklyn Nets. Then 4.5 point spread, not enough considering how much Brooklyn has had to play lately, and really kind of how some of the rotation depth issues that they have. I think Minnesota can exploit. So laid the price with the T-Wolves and laid it with the Sixers. What about you?
Yeah, well, a couple of things. Sorry to Sam Burns. I know he listens to the podcast, so that's a brutal thing for him there, getting that call out. Secondly, my other tennis man, when I cheat on you for tennis tips, he told me that that the Alcaraz price was worth a bet for the outright Indian Wells. Do you like that?
Yeah, I do. And he's got a tougher path. The men's draw is imbalanced. All of the realistic champs are in the top half of the draw: Alcaraz, Rune, and Jannik Sinner. In fact, Jannik Sinner and Rune are in the same section of the draw. They have to play each other in the fourth round. So a path, Rune's path to a title is basically to take out Sinner, and then Fritz, and then Alcaraz, and then potentially whoever comes off the bottom half. So, I didn't bet any outrights in the men's side because the draw is so imbalanced, and basically, if you like a player like Alcaraz, you're going to do well just kind of rolling over prices in the later stage of the tournament, I think. But he does look primed to be the champion just in terms of form. He's just got to go through some pretty good players.
Yeah, I think you say Jannik Sinner, I just get cold shivers down my spine. The three people who have cost me the most money over the journey of the past decade or so are James Harden in various playoff failures, Carson Wentz, and then Jannik Sinner would be number 3.
Well, shame on you for Carson Wentz, but the other two make sense. Those were, Harden's Rockets. Were you against them when they went 0 for 27 against the Warriors and Kevin Durant that year?
I was actually on the Warriors in that series, which I think was actually the wrong side because
I think so too.
Paul hadn't done his hamstring in Game 5. I think the Rockets win that. But the worst one was the bubble series against the Lakers, where I had a stack on the series handicap, Rockets plus 2.5, and they blow the doors off the Lakers in Game 1. Just absolutely destroy them. And so I just need them to win one of the next 4 games, and then that handicap is home, and sure enough, they get destroyed. And
oh God.
and your man Russell Westbrook to get how to play basketball. And that's really where it all fell apart for Russ in the bubble, and it's been all downhill since. But in terms of my best bet, you actually mentioned it. It's the Minnesota Timberwolves -4.5. That line doesn't make sense to me at all. Nets on a back-to-back. Yes, not many of their guys played last night, but Kel Bridges did, and he's the best player, and he plays every game. I don't think this Nets team has any organizing theory behind their offense, which makes sense because this wasn't the team that they envisioned that they'd have. And I just think that they're just relying too much on Bridges, who's shooting 60% on long twos and 50% from three, and that's going to go down. And it's just a lot of Spencer Dinwiddie against the T-Wolves team that's coming off a bad loss against Philly. But when Embiid is in that zone, I don't hold that against them too much. Outside of that, they've been in relatively good form lately. I think they've figured some stuff out in terms of, having Gobert and Slow-Mo and McDaniels together. That gives them a pretty high defensive ceiling and floor. And then Edwards has certainly made a leap. And I think Conley does, as we expected, make more sense for that team than D'Angelo Russell. What do you think of the Lakers +1.5 at home to the Raptors?
Yeah.
Really 5 points worse than the Clippers with D'Angelo back and Davis playing the way he is, because I think the Clippers line closed 3.5 home to the Raptors, and now the Lakers are 1.5 point dogs.
Yeah, it's trending too. This is suggesting something. Somebody has a strong opinion here that Toronto's the right side. I don't agree, but I also don't really know how to come up with a fair price for the Lakers, if I'm being honest. It's a very, very, very tenuous situation because you get full heart perform out of Anthony Davis. They should win this game, but he'll have to go to the locker room for something at some point, one would assume. So, you got it sitting a little bit cautiously betting into the Lakers markets right now, because I do think they're probably the most interesting team in the West who could, realistically kind of throw a little bit of cold water on a lot of, fringe contenders' hopes. The play-in right now for the West is absolutely ridiculous. It's going to be crazy. Those two play-in games are going to be unbelievable. And, for all the good that the Denver Nuggets did this year, winning and getting the 1 seed, they're going to draw somebody absolutely nasty in the 1-8 matchup.
The thing is now is that it might be Dallas. Play Luka and Kyrie, who Dallas aren't very good at the moment, but it's still Doncic and Irving. And then also they might play Minnesota with, Karl Towns back. They might play the Warriors in round one, who are an absolute disaster whenever Draymond goes to the bench. That was a disgrace last night. I think the Lakers, they're going to get into the play-in at this point because Utah and OKC don't care about winning games. And then to tie into your other best bet on the hardwood, the Portland Trailblazers are a catastrophe.
It's so bad.
I watched all of that game against Boston the other night, and admittedly, Anthony Simons is out, which hurts because they need other competent basketball players. Right now, when Simons is out and Lillard goes out, they hand the offense to Cam Reddish. It's the Cam Reddish unit. Meanwhile, Boston are handing their offense to Malcolm Brogdon and Derek White versus Cam Reddish. It's absolutely insane. So there's just a lot of Trent Watford going on, a lot of Drew Eubanks. It's no good. I felt bad for Dame. Watching that, you just had no prayer whatsoever. So I think they're going to be a team to fade. And I suspect that, they're one injury away from just going full tank mode, I think, which they probably should.
I 100% agree they should. The Simons injury and re-injury was basically the death knell for their season. And some of the games that some of the second halves in particular, oof, man, it's been rough sledding for Trailblazers fans. And, I think we are starting to get some, firming of who the 4 play-in teams are going to be in the West. And it's going to be awesome. You're going to have some very good players bounced in single elimination, which is pretty cool. It's going to be, I'm really enjoying the way that the playoff, seeding is shaping up. It's going to make for some really fun handicapping.
Yep, it's going to be fun. Also going to be fun, Drew, is the Players' Championship. We head into the weekend. Don't miss Rory McIlroy, John Rahm, JT, my man, Colin Morikawa. It's the best golfers in the world. Take on the 17th Island Green. Go head-to-head at the Players today through Sunday on NBC, Golf Channel, and Peacock. All right, we are done. Don't forget to check out NBCSportsEdge.com for more information to help you with your wagers. Thanks everyone watching on the NBC Sports YouTube channel. Please like, subscribe, rate us if you're listening to us in podcast form. From Jay Croucher and Drew Dinsick, we'll be back on Monday.